Do you have a family, children?
I have a wife and 2 children. My daughter is a high school graduate. My son is 11 years old, he does gymnastics.
What did you know about Ukraine before the war? You're an educated man, tell me. What is the population of the Russian Federation?
30.
Russian Federation.
I get it. 36 billion.
Billions?
No, I don't.
140 million.
Not 36 million, but 140 million.
The difference is very large. What is the population of Ukraine?
I don't know.
Let's break down your Tsar's theses on denazification and demilitarization. You are an educated person. How do you understand this? You have been involved in these processes.
Yes, the word military translates to war. Then,
It does not translate as war.
how?
War translates as war. 3 letters, war translates to war. Military stands for armaments.
Our government believes it is necessary to disarm Ukraine and defeat nationalism in Ukraine.
Let's examine in order, how can we disarm Ukraine?
Ukraine is a state that borders on Russia.
Yes.
Everything that borders on us can be a threat to us, because every state is primarily concerned about its security. Ukraine, bordering our territory, can serve as a platform for unfriendly countries.
For which countries?
North Atlantic Treaty countries.
And what did they do?
We are told that these countries in America are a threat because they want to weaken Russia.
How?
Dragging Russia into hostilities with Ukraine. We have a conflict right now.
Who?
Russia has a conflict with the European community.
Did you just make that up yourself?
It's talked about everywhere.
Where do they say?
On the radio, on television, in messengers.
What does Ukraine have to do with it? Then go to war with the European Union.
Ukraine is presented as a tool in this war. Ukraine is a participant in the process. Ukraine is given weapons and money.
Do you believe that?
You and I started talking about goals.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
In this regard, our country, for the sake of its security, must disarm Ukraine. And why the goal of denazification? Because we are told that there is a high level of nationalism in Ukraine that threatens our country. It is of an aggressive nature. These are 2 things we need to get rid of, because they are on our borders and pose a threat to us.
Is that why you attacked? Do you know how many people left Donbass? When you invaders came in there in the year 2014 and started killing and pillaging.
But we are told the opposite.
How?
We started to help.
Let's go another way. Have you come to fight Nazism? Are you aware that the Soviet Union was an accomplice to Nazism in World War II? The USSR had an alliance with Nazi Germany, and they attacked Poland. Don't tell me you don't know.
That the Soviet Union attacked Poland? I know.
The USSR was an ally of Nazi Germany.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes.
Now tell me in this concept how it works out that way. What is the difference between World War II and World War II?
World War II, and the Great Patriotic War. It's like looking at the same event from two angles.
You can't look at it from two angles. There was World War II. Tell us who fought who.
Germany was at war. Imperialist Germany attacked Soviet territory.
What year?
In the year 1939.
No, there were other things going on that year. To attack the Soviet Union, Germany had to go as far as the Soviet Union. What were the states along the way?
Belarus and Poland, I think.
Poland?
Poland.
What should have been done with Poland?
What was to be done about Poland?
Capture. And other countries, too, those on the left and right along the road. But there was a contract. Did you know that in Poland there was a joint Red Army parade with Nazi Germany?
I hadn't heard.
Why?
This is the first time I've heard of it. Probably because these topics did not affect me much.
Because they don't tell you about it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Either that. Here, look, this is Kharkiv. How do you like it? Not a single house in one piece.
Terrible, of course.
Is it just awful? Do you want a bedroom community in your city to be ruined like this?
Let's not do that.
It will be. The bottom line is this: the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany were allies.
I know there was a non-aggression pact.
In fact, it should be said that before the 41st year the Soviet Union supplied Germany with food, steel and oil. There was a joint parade after the capture of Brest. When officers of Nazi Germany and officers of the Red Army stood and took in the parade of vehicles that drove in the ruined city.
But I haven't heard of it.
I'll show you when we're done talking. Are you saying that you are not an occupier because communicating with the local population removed any possible doubts you might have had?
But I had my doubts.
We have a video called 8 Years of Bombing Donbass, which shows that a lot of people left Donbass.
It makes sense.
Because you, looters and rapists, came and robbed and destroyed factories and industries, and you created the conditions under which everything in Donbass stopped in 2 years. Everyone became homeless and unemployed. Production all stopped, the mines stopped. The black mines worked, the rest of the mines eventually closed. The male population that remained went under contract to serve in the People's Militia, which you mentioned. There was nothing to do there, there was no war as such, the active phase ended quickly. This is the beginning of the whole story. What happened on the 24th of February after your Tsar's speech?
When he recognized these states as independent.
There are no states. Russia's goal was different. Russia wanted to cut a land corridor from Kharkiv to Odessa through all the regions: Kharkiv, Donetsk, Luhansk, Odessa to Transnistria. But it didn't work.
Все области, которые идут: Харьков, Донецк, Луганск, Мариуполь, Одесса. Прорубить себе до Приднестровья пешеходный, точнее, сухопутный коридор. Прорубить себе туда. Но не получилось.
It didn't work in Odessa, it didn't work in Kharkiv. And in Donbass, Gherkin's group came in. You have such an employee of the Federal Security Service. There are even his confessions. Strelkov is his pseudonym. Igor Gherkin, who started the so-called Russian Spring. He succeeded in two areas that border Russia when the first columns entered Ukraine and conducted shelling. And Putin at first said that it was the miners who found weapons in the mines. But then he apparently forgot and said bluntly, yes, we went in. Yes, we did it, and we won't get anything for it. His phrase, and let these Ukrainians try to shoot the women and children who will stand in front of our troops. Did you watch this conference?
I have not seen this conference.
Why? Because they don't show it to you. And these are his words in front of journalists. Yes, I'm not hiding, and we would watch them shoot women and children in front of our equipment. On the 24th of February in 6 directions your army entered in a horde of 180,000. It was resisted and got away. And is now running from wherever it can. You yourself are a witness to the fact that you have no victories. Mountains of corpses, mountains of wounded and trenches. We began to be actively armed since the end of last summer, when the whole world saw that our defenders could fight. What is the motivation of your troops? What is your personal motivation for coming here to die?
I don't even know how to say it.
Not going to jail is your whole motivation. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Give me an answer to this simple question. Did you go to war to avoid going to jail?
I went to war because...
We take away the pretty words about the summons coming.
No, wait, I don't mean the subpoena. I mean that I, as a participant in historical events, liberate territories that have been suffering since 2014. That is to say, the way it is presented to us.
I ask you to tell me your personal motivation for participating in the war. You are forbidden to say the word war, I remind you.
Basically, yes.
What? You didn't care about the people of Donbass because you were told that you had two choices, either go to jail or get shot. Was this the case?
And then there are the high salaries.
Money is the second motive.
Of course, during peacetime, the mobilized did not receive the salaries they receive now.
Salaries are another story. The first is not going to jail. You just don't care about the people of Donbass because you don't know the population of your country and my country. You know nothing about my country, absolutely nothing.
Apparently so.
And I don't have much faith that the people you talk to in Donbass fit the categories of people you can talk to. If you saw fans of the Soviet Union there, grandparents who were stuck in the 60s, surely they would tell you that. You should have shown them the poster of Lenin. By the way, what in your country is a dead torso doing in Red Square?
It's a cult of personality.
Is that normal?
Это нормально?
It's not a torso, it's a mummy.
Нет, это
This is a torso, this is a corpse that lies on Red Square and people go to look at it for money.
за бабки подрачивает куча народа.
This is the personality cult of Lenin, which was created by Stalin. New religion.
What happened to Stalin? Why didn't he lie down for a long time? Tell our viewers.
Расскажите зрителям.
I do not know why Stalin did not last long. As for the creation of the mausoleum, his main idea was not to bury Lenin's body in the ground, but to leave it to create a new religion.
Закопать в землю, а оставить тело Ленина, это как создание новой религии.
Is that normal?
What is normal and what is not normal in life, everyone decides for himself.
Каждый решает сам для себя.
What is your personal assessment?
Personally, I believe that the very understanding and wording of the word leader of the proletariat is something from ancient times. A mausoleum is the same thing. It's like the Incas. It's about the past, not the present.
Вот. И мавзолей это тоже, это там, у инков, да, то есть это туда назад, это не сюда вперед. Мавзолей среди.
Führer, what does that mean?
Что значит?
Leader.
This is the leader. Führer Lenin, Führer Stalin.
Фюрер, Сталин.
Yes, a leader, a strong leader.
Лидер, сильный лидер.
Strong?
Чем
How was Stalin strong? What was Lenin's strength?
I cannot say that Lenin, having made the revolution, did well because there was an educated society, there were officers.
Не могу сказать, что он сделал хорошо, потому что было образованное общество, были офицеры, да, и
Please remind all viewers what Lenin did, in what years was it? And why do you think he did badly?
В каких годах это было? И почему вы считаете, что то, что он сделал, это плохо?
Speaking of years, it was the revolution of 1917.
Yes.
I think everyone has heard about this revolution. As for Lenin, he created, united the workers' and peasants' armies.
объединил рабоче-крестьянскую армию.
Then the army overthrew the current government, seized power, and came to power itself. After that, persecution and shootings of officers began.
Захватила власть, само пришло к власти. После этого начались гонения и расстрелы офицеров.
Why did you say it was bad?
Because it was an educated society. The Tsar himself, as a person, I like. The society that was in power was educated.
Мне импонирует. Было образованное общество. У власти стояли люди с образованием.
Why aren't you telling the truth?
Why am I not telling the truth?
Who was sending nobles to study in Europe? Only priests knew how to write and read.
Учиться в Европу. Потому что только попы умели писать и читать.
And this whole empire was built on the stick and carrot.
Построена на кнуте и прянике.
The ruling elite were stupid people who were born into the right family at the right time.
Тупые чуваки, которые попали просто в нужное время и родились в нужном роду, скажем так.
Look, that's not exactly my point. I think that.
You know the history, don't you? When were they sent to Europe for knowledge?
В Европу за знаниями.
Of course.
And why was this happening?
Because the level of education was higher there.
Yes, are you aware that Ukraine already had schools and universities? And we didn't have such a concept as serf, but you did.
Yes, we had serfs.
And we had Cossacks, and we could read and write.
Умели читать и писать.
To return to the subject of Lenin, an uneducated, resentful segment of the population came to power. As an example, their words, "We will destroy the whole world of violence, who was nothing will become everything."
Весь мир насилия мы разрушим, да, кто был ничем, тот станет всем.
Yes, that's right.
I don't agree with that.
Не согласен.
What happened next?
Что было дальше? 20-е, 30-е.
I always tell my kids that.
And the 20s and 30s?
And then there was the famine.
Потом был голод, потом
Where?
In Russia.
Where was the famine in Russia? Are you talking about the global famine, like the lack of food, or the famine that the Soviets made in Ukraine?
Голод, недостачу еды, или про голодоморы, которые делала советская власть в Украине.
No, I am talking about famine as a lack of food for the Soviet Union as a new nation.
После, как у нового Советского Союза, как у нового
Do
государства.
you know such a story? You just recalled the slogan proletarians of all countries, unite. What does it mean?
The people who came to power called themselves the proletariat, including the world proletariat.
Ну, в том числе и мировым пролетариатом.
Yes.
They called for the fact that only by uniting can one achieve any significant results.
Только, как объединившись, да, мы достигнем каких-то значительных результатов.
They said, unite in alliances, including with us, and we will help you.
Союзы и в том числе там с нами, и мы вам поможем.
And who paid for all these banquets around the world?
This was done, among other things, with money from German bankers.
Немецких банкиров.
No. Most of these activities are.
It was said that
Говорили, что там, как
There was a famine because everything was withdrawn and sent to bribe states, including Nazi Germany. And in fact, it was communism that pushed for World War II, you know. Lenin had the idea that everyone should be united. But for this unification to happen, you have to pay someone. To pay to unite thought, to hold parties, congresses, and meetings. And it was all paid for by post-revolutionary Russia. People were malnourished, and everything was going to Europe.
Люди свои не доедали, а все ехало туда, в Европу.
Why were there famines, do you know? Because the government needed to show some. How do you say achievements in Russian?
accomplishments?
Yes, to show achievements. But where were all the engineers, all the smart people?
Again, I say that.
They were all in the Solovki camps.
Yes, there was a shortage of smart people.
So where was all the technology and all the factories bought?
In the West.
Did the government have to pay for the purchase?
Of course.
And where did the government get the money?
From their resources, of course.
They introduced the rule of 3 spikelets, and the peasants were dying, and the government was buying technology, ships and blueprints in Europe. Did you know that most of the facilities that Russia is now proud of were not built by Russians?
I didn't know that.
Read about it when you come back. Why was there a famine after the war? After World War II, there was a famine in Ukraine in 1947.
I don't know.
Because it was necessary to pay and buy technology, to rebuild. They took everything from their own people and again gave everything abroad. The entire Russian Empire in its essence to the present day. I put you in the category of Putin fans. That's for sure. I'm sure you do. Did you vote for him?
I always vote against everyone.
So you support the current story?
I'll put it this way. I liked Putin when, after Yeltsin, order began to be restored in Russia. That was until about 2004, when I was in the army. At that time, life really got better. And after that, when I went to the polls, I voted against all of them, because I just didn't see any alternatives.
You supported Putin.
There is no alternative.
Yes, for Putin. You sympathize with Putin. He's like a czar to you. Everything is under his control. Everything is fine with him. All the mechanisms are working. You are a pure lover of the regime and you like to be ruled. I am convinced of that. And when the Tsar decided you had to go and die, you had no choice. Neither did your ancestors in their 20s and 40s. Or am I wrong?
since I didn't do anything against it, it turns out that I was controlled.
Против, да, этого всего, что получается, ну, значит, да, я был, как вы говорите, в стойле.
I assert that 95% of all prisoners of war can't explain anything. You at least try to explain something.
Не может объяснить ничего, вы хотя бы пробуете что-то объяснить.
But you are a fan of the regime and, in fact, of three czars, starting with Lenin, then there was Stalin, and finally Putin. Let's omit all the secretaries of state, but Putin, as he came 23 years ago, with a little break when Medvedev was president, is still there now. It's a continuation of Stalin, the bloodthirsty one. Let's talk about Stalin?
About what, exactly?
Can it be viewed from many angles?
No, but it's a strong leader. Yes, he was bloodthirsty.
What was he a strong leader about? How many people he destroyed?
Yes, he destroyed, but
How many people were exterminated? Can you explain to people what labor camps and the labor army are?
of course, I read Solzhenitsyn.
Do you think a labor army is okay?
If you look at the economic aspect, a person either works for money or works for free if they are in a labor camp, that is, they work for food. Plus, there were unique people with Jewish roots who came up with the food system. That is, the better one works, the more and tastier one eats.
То есть человек, чем он лучше работает, тем он больше кушает, вкуснее кушает.
And at the heart of this system is the idea that man must work for food in order to survive.
Вот эта система, что человек работал для того, чтобы кушать, чтобы выживать. Вот.
Is that normal?
Solzhenitsyn writes about this.
What do you think about it?
Of course not. This is primarily a deception of the population.
Aren't you cheated?
The point is, we don't want to pay you money, we'll just put you in jail and you'll work for the sake of.
Not to die.
Yes, yes.
And without beautiful language, it all sounds like this: you will work as a slave, and if you refuse, you will die. How many thousands of people were buried there?
Plenty.
Is Stalin good and just?
No, he's a strong leader.
He's not a leader, he's not strong at all. Tell everyone about Stalin's death. This is exactly what breaks the theory of the strong leader. How did he die?
I don't know how he died.
How's that? This is your idol, a strong leader.
He's not my idol.
Here we trim the video. He died because he was not given medical attention. Putin is now completely repeating Stalin's history. So if Putin gets sick, he might not even get medical care either.
It's understandable, because
Why?
otherwise, he will simply continue to live, and if so, he will die.
Why won't they help him in this case?
He will not be provided with medical assistance, because they are unhappy with him.
Stalin died on the evening of March 5, 1953. It happened in the 75th year of his life, due to a cerebral hemorrhage on the 1st of March, on the basis of hypertension and atherosclerosis. The point is this: they didn't give him medical care because they were afraid to disturb him. And he was dying alone, shuddering in convulsions. Because all his entourage was so afraid of him that no one dared to go into the office, since he said that he would be there. He was feared by everyone. Is this a brave man, or what word did you use?
Strong leader.
Is it leadership when your subordinates are so intimidated?
Well, yes.
The subordinates were so afraid of him that they were afraid to go to him and provide medical assistance. The same story will be with Putin. I, as an apostle, predict this. He will feel bad, and he will choke in his own urine.
I understand.
And someone will not have time or someone will be afraid. This is how it will be. Putin has been living in a bunker since the coronavirus. He has broken away from reality. He completely repeats the fate and life of Stalin. And how did Lenin die?
Fanny Kaplan shot him. As a result, he was wounded, including by poisonous bullets. Several bullets hit him, I think it was 2.
This is some version of yours. In addition to the official Soviet version of Lenin's death, there was an opinion that Lenin had syphilis. The immediate cause of death was a cerebral hemorrhage resulting from a neurovascular form of syphilis. This version is confirmed by the fact that Lenin was treated exclusively with mercury antisyphilitic drugs. In June of the year 2004, this version was published in the European Journal. And so on.
I talked about Lenin's death with my children. I was interested in this. It was not about syphilis, but about a bullet wound.
Because a hero cannot die of syphilis. National treasure.
I agree.
Which lies in Red Square. He can't?
Yes.
Have people ever lived freely in Russia? At least for a period of time. Let's start from 1900 to the present day.
Life under Yeltsin can hardly be called free.
You were just surviving then.
After the collapse of the country, everyone wanted to grab more for themselves.
And then what happened? And then the king again.
Then there was gangsterism, which the police also covered up, and in essence,
what is Putin's profession?
federal agent, intelligence agent, counterintelligence officer.
Lots of pretty words. He is a simple federal agent who served in Germany and came back.
I know that too.
So we have, before the war there was Lenin, then Stalin, then Putin. The first one died badly, the second one died badly, and the third one died badly. Here is such a formula. And all of you, as you were serfs, remained so.